Train to Busan is a 2016 uh, horror action zombie movie from South Korea. We watched this tonight after hearing a lot of good stuff about it. Not so hearing so much great stuff about the sequel or movie in the same universe. Different creative people apparently, and doesn't have what is the crackerjack crackerjack premise, which is this movie, which is basically it's zombies on a train. What you gonna do, punk? Feel lucky, punk? I don't know quite sure why I'm saying that. That would be snakes on a plane, which doesn't have that. It has a much more colorful tagline to it. Um, so yes, because it's a zombie movie. It's about family, and about kind of values. Um, this being from kind of a South Korean point of view, we've got a father who is a fund manager who is completely neglectful of his family, especially his young daughter, and whose wife indeed has gone off to Busan, basically because they're going to get a divorce, and he grudgingly, says, "Okay, I'll take the afternoon and I'll take her down from, I think from Seoul down to Busan." It does, but at the same time as they get on the train and we are introduced to a cast of characters, from teenagers to a couple who's pregnant, to a couple of elderly sisters, to a high-powered executive, to the kind of the very neat and very kind of service-oriented stewards and stewardesses. I think I should probably say both in this case, in their very crisp little blue coat uniforms. Also a young woman, oh, and a homeless guy, which we get introduced later on. A young woman staggers onto the train, just as there seems to be stuff happening at the station. And indeed, as they're pulling out, his little girl, who's about 10, looks out the window and sees the the conductor, not the conductor, the guy who's kind of the station attendant, get tackled by some guy. It's like, what the hell's going on there? And of course, what it is a zombie attack, and pretty soon we have a zombie outbreak on the train, and whole cars get taken over. But we do have survivors, basically those people that I mentioned, and cast of other characters, and we're into a survival situation where these people are all put under great stress, and are they going to survive, and you know how few are going to survive. um, it's we do get those kind of hints of the old lady saying, like, oh, it's more people rioting, it's like they should re-educate them all. It's like there's a kind of there's some links here to civil unrest, political machination in a place like South Korea, which has kind of undead hordes across the border, you could say. This in this case, it seems to come from a research facility where, at the beginning of the movie, we see a zombie deer, and it turns out that the fund manager, our fund manager father, might actually have some connection to that thing. And indeed, an assistant over the phone asks, "Is this our fault? Is this my fault?" And he's weeping, and you wonder if he's going to blow his head off before the thing. So we get we get the fund manager guy, who, this is, I think it is basically his movie, who starts out as very much a fund manager of, basically be selfish, get ahead in life. He's doing everything he can, I guess, to get ahead, ostensibly for the family that he's completely neglecting. um, and but and his little daughter's like, when he's early on in the thing, he's saying, like, look, we need to just take care of ourselves, we can't think of anyone else. And she looks at him, and she's like the moral center of this movie, this little girl is like, that's, that's what mommy says. Like, you don't care about anybody but yourself. Which I don't think she says mommy. I think she just knows you only care about yourself. And this movie is sort of one of these tests of like, is that true? Does he only care about himself? Um, we get kind of a salt of the earth kind of bruiser, kind of big guy who also kind of sees that he is looks down on him as a fund manager, um, whose wife is pregnant. We get a powerful executive who is sort of an older version of what you can very much see the hero turning into. Um, we get some teens with almost like a little teen romance in there, kind of lightly hinted at. It's not a movie where we're going to have much in the way of sexual content. You can see the kind of the conservatism, I think, maybe of a South Korean um, movie that way. But yeah, it's got a really good. It's like you're on a train, you're on this confined space. You have this confined number of characters. You've got this goal. It runs along those tracks highly efficiently, and you know comes up with various different um, you know things for each character. It's not particularly deep, um, but it's very enjoyable and very enjoyable ride, and maybe has enough of that stuff of like, is he going to be a sociopath? Because there's a lot of these zombie movies where um, that is the message that sort of seems to come through, is like you have to toughen up, and you have to, like, hardcore values, and you got to be ruthless and not care about other people. And it's like, oh, actually this movie kind of goes the opposite route, which is rather refreshing for a movie like this. So yeah, I enjoyed Train to Busan. I think if the sequel comes out on streaming at some point for free, I might check it out. But from everything I've heard, if it's not the same creative people behind it, and it doesn't have that kind of more driving kind of um, driving premise to it that this one does, which doesn't sound like it does. It's just sort of the peninsula of South Korea this time, which is a lot more diffuse. It may not be as, doesn't sound like it's nearly as effective, but I might just, always up for a zombie movie every once in a while. All right, that's all I have to say there. More videos later.